It's time for a healthy dose of According to the Cassels. And now, please welcome your hosts, Amy and Trey Cassels.
Hey everyone, it's Amy Cassels.
What up?
We have a very special guest today, Ms. Michelle Rukny.
Hi.
And Michelle is a lot of things, but Michelle is a permanent makeup artist. She is a brow mapping artist as well as coach. She's a business coach, entrepreneur, and owner of a amazing salon, the Boutique Bar.
The beauty compound.
Oh,
Close
compound.
enough, yeah.
Okay, compound. Sorry, I was like, as it was
That's
coming
okay.
out, I was like, oh crap.
You don't have any notes. That was from memory.
Yeah,
I
that
can't
was
take it
great.
back. But since I've known you, which I met Michelle at the park. See, ladies, you got to go to the park. You
Yeah.
meet amazing people.
Thank
I
you.
met Michelle at the park. I think I had just had a miscarriage, and she was the victim there who I got to dump on, and then we instantly became friends.
That's right. It's a great story.
So I just went and visited Michelle. Did I miss anything about your bio?
No, you got it all. I mean, there's a lot of things, but it would take forever.
Okay.
It's those are the main things.
I love it. Well, you know what? When you have a desire to learn and constantly grow, your list and your resume becomes very long at all of your skills because you find joy in learning new things.
Continuing education.
So I went to the beauty compound in spring on Tuesday, and Spring Klein area, and it was amazing. I have to say the facial that I got was probably the best facial I've ever had. And we have been to we went to Florida. We were at
I have never had a facial, honey.
I understand, but you would do a massage
Yes.
while I would get
a
the facial, right?
That's correct.
So we went to God, what is it called? A spa in Florida, and it was, I don't even remember the name, but it was the number 3 in the United States spa, and this was beyond better than that.
Boom.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Drop the mic.
Thank you.
Yes, and so I went to Taylor. So Taylor works at your compound. Is she her own business there, or
No, she actually, she works for me.
Okay.
But we're a team. I mean, that's how I look at it. So she comes in, she's pregnant, so
Wow.
she's
Yeah.
kind of taking some time off. So not super flexible with her time right now. But I think as time progresses, she's going to get more openings and things like that. But yeah, she
Yeah.
works for me, I guess you could say.
Well, I have to tell you what a benefit you provide for women on a different level other than just like, sure, my face feels amazing. I went to Michelle and I did microblading, and I think I did a combination. Did I do a combination? And basically that's where you tattoo on your eyebrows. So it's not the old 90s day where they just tattoo the makeup on. It is what kind
It's
of
precision.
it is precision, but there's this
It's more natural now for sure. Not like the old school grandma's tattoo or permanent makeup. So many things have advanced as far as technique and the technology that we use. So it's just the hair strokes. We wanted to give you a natural look. And so that's what you got. You got some nice brows.
Well, then I went and got lip blushing done.
Right.
So as women, we lose pigment in our skin, and we wake up in the morning, and I don't want to always just have to put on makeup, but I want to wake up in the morning and still have some of my youth and feel like I did when my lips were, more natural red and I had actual color in my brows. But mine are very blonde. But for other people, they thin. So then it doesn't. So now you're an adult and you're 40 years old and you've lost part of your brows. You don't have as much color in your cheeks, and then your mouth and your lips are not as plump, and it's like you start to
Rolling up like a raisin.
It's all downhill. So
It's over.
So I love what you provide because you actually have a healthy way. It's cosmetic makeup, but it's a different grade than the natural than the regular tattoos, right?
Right. So tattoo artists that are out there are using different kinds of pigments. So it's just a difference in the pigment. This one's not meant to last forever like a tattoo is meant to. It's supposed to fade really naturally and not just kind of have to constantly be touched up like years and years and years like tattoos sometimes do. Like they fade and it, but not all the way. So you have to like keep maintaining it forever. So I like that about cosmetic or permanent makeup is what we call it, because it fades naturally. And if you decide, okay, I don't really want this anymore, over time it'll be gone, for the most part.
Yeah. And it does fade a little bit, but not, you're saying, not enough to where you're like, oh, I have to go do it again when it's all gone. But I love just being able to, on a Saturday morning, or during the week, I just want to put mascara on and some chapstick, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then I still have all my color, and it's great. Okay. I want to know, Trey, I know you're so interested in this.
Well, now I know what happened, because when I got home, you looked different.
Well, that's because
I didn't tell him.
Did not.
Well, and I also
Kind of
had...
checking you out. I was like, man, something's going on over here.
Okay, so I noticed that on the menu you had men's facials too.
We have some services for men. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So what is it about, what is it that why would a man want to go and get a facial?
A lot of times the wife nudges the husband and she's like, hey, you need to get a facial. But some men do, maintain themselves in the same ways that women would. So for your skin's health, it's good to get facials because you're removing all that excess, buildup that's on the skin. It's good for anti-aging. It's good for just peace and relaxation too, and kind of get out of the house and relax. And then for men who have beards, we do like a beard wash. So you get a nice thorough cleanse, some oils in there.
I wish I had a beard. That would be fun. I would totally do that.
That's okay. You'll grow up soon.
It's a sensory thing too, so you get a nice experience depending on where you go.
Oh, the way she massaged my face, it was crazy. It was like the reflexology or the mapping of the face. There's different parts of your face that when you massage it reacts to different portions in the body, right?
Right. And I think she did some lymphatic drainage on you too, so you probably felt some of that also.
Yeah. It was like she was like rubbing my face. It was like facial yoga. I was like, oh.
I don't want to leave.
It was so awesome. Well, men, when they get facials, are they gonna do like a mask as well?
Yeah, we do customize it for every person that walks through the door gets a customized facial. So even if it's something that you choose off of the menu, we're still customizing what products we're pulling for that facial. So for a man's facial or a gentleman's facial is what we call it, we're gonna select stuff or products that are for whatever their skin issues are. So if I'm red, or I'm dry, or I'm oily, or I'm whatever their conditions are, then we target those with the products. So
I'd try it.
Yeah.
Shoot, I like manis and petties. I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
I like my calves being rubbed and my toes being pampered.
I don't think they're gonna go all that way, Trey.
You never know.
I loved it. And what is the deal with why someone needs to exfoliate?
Oh my goodness. So there's so many different reasons why you want to exfoliate, because you have skin. Your skin is and of course I'm going to forget the words because I'm like nervous, but your skin needs to be exfoliated because there is buildup that happens just from the environment, from your skin products, from your makeup. Most people don't exfoliate the way they're supposed to, just naturally. Maybe they do a single cleanse and then they call it a day. Some people have like a full-on routine where they're still cleansing, like maybe they have 2 or 3 steps in the morning, 2 or 3 steps at night. But you should always do, I like to think of facials as like your oil change. So like, yes, your car is working fine, but like get that oil change to kind of reset everything. And then you can just maintain it with, the good gas and all that stuff. So I definitely think there's some importance in exfoliating, but the other things also kind of apply as well.
And it's probably, I'm just thinking from a man's perspective. Women, we know, we're like, yes, smooth skin, that's it. That's all you need to tell me. But for a guy, they need to know that it'll actually feel better, right? Their face will move better. They don't have to worry about itchy like beard.
Well, I'm turning 46 this next. Actually, we're in September, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'm turning 46 this month, and so I'm getting the wrinkles under the eyes.
Oh yeah, you are.
Everything's just kind of starting to
real
droop
bad
a little bit.
I've noticed that.
You have the droopy
gray hair.
Eeyore.
You're sparkly in the beard.
You like the gray hair.
Do you do beard tattooing?
I am not.
So I do not
that.
recommend beard tattoo. We do scalp micro-pigmentation, which is for people who are losing density in their hair.
Hold on, say that again.
Trey,
scalp.
you could do that.
I'm not losing density in my hair.
Well,
Actually, I kind of am. But we don't even get. We're talking about
Right.
the products
kidding.
that she offers.
Yeah.
Tell me about the hair.
Yeah. So scalp,
for a friend. He wants to know for a friend.
Got this
asking
guy.
for a friend. So the scalp micropigmentation is where we basically implant pigment into the scalp in little, the easiest way to describe it, dots,
Okay.
to mimic the follicle. So for men or women, actually, I've done a lot of women. Those people who are losing density, or let's just say you have male pattern baldness and you're like, okay, I have some of my hair here and I have nothing here. We just shave everything. You have to be committed for that type of person that's got, severe male pattern baldness. You need to be committed to shaving your head because you want it to mimic the follicle. But I'll tell you, it adds like 15 years to how you look.
crazy.
So
Yeah.
there's some pretty transformative.
I didn't know y'all did that type of procedure. Because isn't that I don't want to say invasive, but isn't that don't you have to numb things and do?
So no, for
Really?
for the brows we do numb, for the eyeliner we numb, for the lips we numb. For paramedical or scalp, for example, we don't necessarily numb
Okay.
because it's so quick. It's like you don't even have a second to even feel it before we've moved on to the next one. And most people have like, you know how they say like thick skulls, right? So most people have thicker crowns, or they have
So you're just going into the
You're just
you're
going-
planting a seed in the skin.
right, just a tiny little micro dot,
That's cool.
and it's not painful. Most people can tolerate it, and it's done over a series of sessions. So, for example, I had a woman who had a thyroid disorder that caused her to really have super thin hair, and she was keeping it very short, like maybe an inch long or something. And so, but she sat at a doctor's office where the lights were right above her, and so you could literally see through her hair, and she felt it was just very, it affected her.
Absolutely.
And so her self-esteem and her confidence. And so she was the reason why I went and got a third certification, because I don't like to do anything on people until I feel like I've aced it, And so I went and got a third certification for scalp micropigmentation for her. And because she was just begging me, please, Michelle, just do it. I don't care if
I'll be your
if you're not
guinea pig."
confident, I'll do it. But I went and did it. Got the certification and did her hairline. You can see it on my Instagram page. The transformation of like her, not only her hairline, but her confidence, like in the way she was just looking at the camera and the way that she was smiling it makes it so rewarding. But for those specific cases, I had to do like most of her head. And so pricing is based on how much you have to do and then how many sessions you need. Most people need about 2 to 3 sessions.
Yeah.
And then, your maintenance 3 to 5 years or so.
Are you still
interesting.
tattooing? Are you able to still do tattooing for nipples, for breast cancer patients?
Yes, absolutely. So we do the 3D areolas for people who have, not only people who have cancer, but like if you've lost your breast due to like mastectomies, or if you have, a lot of women have,
And
my
it
gosh.
looks so real too, by the way.
Yeah, it really does. It really can look so real. Some women that have breast slits or breast reductions, and then they have scarring around their areolas, we can actually match that pigment to give like repigment the areola to make it look to blend in with the skin.
So you're almost tattooing the scar to the pigment of the skin, so it almost disappears.
Right.
You're tattooing it into that. I'm making a picture of it.
Into
Covering
that
it up.
scar, yeah, to make it
And what if
blend.
you have it, like for Trey, he has a third nipple, so can you tattoo that out?
We can.
I'm just kidding.
They're just
gonna
giving me a
use-
fourth, so I'd even it out.
Yeah, I
It's
could
just
do a
odd
fourth right
now.
underneath it, right there on the other side.
Okay, so Michelle, you are in the business of helping mainly women, but men too, feel confident in themselves. Why did you get into this?
I got into it. Obviously, I love helping people. I was a single mom when I first stumbled across microblading, which was the first thing that I encountered, right? So I was a single mom. I had just dropped out of nursing school, and because I wanted to be with my son. I was just like not seeing him for the entire day from like 6 a.m. first kid dropped off at daycare, and then last kid picked up, and then literally just going home and trying to get him to bed so I could study.
That's
and it was
brutal.
just, he was learning all of these things and I was missing it. And so I didn't want to sacrifice. I thought I was sacrificing for him, but he was actually sacrificing for me. So I thought maybe real estate. So I got my real estate license and I thought that's going to be flexible and I'm going to have so much time and I'll be able to be with my son. And that didn't play out that way. Even though I was making decent money, it's a hustle and it's like a grind and you have to be on the whim of a buyer or a seller. And so I stumbled into microblading because my mom had lost her brows due to thyroid cancer. And I was like, what is a good solution for her? And I researched, and Dominique Saxa had just done a video on YouTube about microblading. And so when I typed that in, I'm like, what is this? Like, are they implanting hairs? Like, what is this technology that we have? And I started researching, like, who does it in the Woodlands, because that's where I was living at the time. And so I found one person who was doing it, and her prices were like so crazy that I thought, okay, Mom, sorry, you're just gonna have to like deal with it. We'll pencil them in. But then I thought about it, and I thought, well, if she's doing well, then maybe I can offer this service, help my mom, give her touch-ups forever, and like also help other people and make a nice little income so I can support my son and my mom who was living with me at the time. And so it was kind of a mixture of things. I would love to say it was just to help people, but yeah, part of it was also survival, right? And so I saved my last closing check. I had just sold a property, and like I said, okay, and at that time I wasn't a Christian yet, but I was like, if God wants me to, then I'll have money to take this class, because there was a microblading instructor coming into town. And so it happened to be that like it closed like a couple of days before her class. So I sent the deposit, and then I was in the class, and I took the class, and then I was just like, okay, now I have to make my money back because that was my last check. Yeah. So now it's real. So I did the math. I'm like, I have to do 16 people at this price to make my investment back and then to make some money. And then, you know, the rest is pretty much history. I just focused on it, and it became my full-time gig. And then it was like, so many great things happened as a result of that, including me becoming a Christian because of microblading. So it was meant to be my path.
That's amazing.
Tell me,
That's pretty cool.
Tell me the story of how you were saved, because, and by the way, just so for our listeners, we are a health and wellness podcast. We talk about family, we talk about faith, we talk about fitness and health and nutrition, but our overall well-being is more than just our physical well-being. It's our mental and emotional well-being. It's our spiritual well-being. And when we have all these parts that are complete, and they'll never be fully complete, but you know, we can work towards it. But our spiritual completeness or wellness is so important. And what happened to you while you were doing microblading?
So I was an atheist. Actually,
you were on the other side of the fence.
I was the one debating all the Christians and all the other people, going, no, your God's so fake and all that stuff, right? And then I call her my fairy brow godmother because she was a lovely lady. Her name is Jerry. She lives in the Woodlands, at Creekside, and she saw my post. I was just like begging people to do their brows because remember I had this number that I needed to meet, right? And so she's like, well, come on, and I have some girlfriends over and they can watch. And I'm like, okay. I was nervous because I was new, but she trusted me.
And tattooing somebody's face.
Yeah, and there's spectators, and it's like, you know, and these
no
are
sudden movements.
Yeah, it's like the Woodlands too, you know, so you're just like, okay, this could make or break me right now. So she had some lovely ladies there, just sitting on her bed watching. I was mobile at the time, which I wasn't supposed to be, but I didn't know that.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, and so I got there. She was so pleasant, so sweet, retired, and just like, these were her golfing buddies. And so she let me do her brows, was so happy. And it took me 3 hours. Now, just for kind of like reference, it takes me maybe an hour to do microblading, like total from start to finish.
You shaved off some time.
And 30 minutes of that is like numbing. So it doesn't take me very long anymore. But back then, because I was nervous, because I didn't know what I was doing, I was like thrown into the fire, threw myself into the fire. I just did her brows in 3 hours. And then her friend who was there actually was from Florida. She was just visiting, one of the friends. And she tells me, Michelle, can you do my brows right now? And I had already been there 3 hours. And I was like, sure, because I'm like, I need the money, right? And absolutely, I'm not going to get 2 in 1. Like, that was pretty amazing for the the beginning of this whole thing. So at that time, like I said, I was mobile. I was playing like spa music on Pandora. But because I had been there for 3 hours, I was like done with spa music, right? I thought, oh, I can't listen to 3 more hours of spa music. I knew I was going to be there for a while. So I let Shannon is her name. I let Shannon decide. I said, hey, Shannon, you play what you want. And she played Christian Pandora. And the atheist in me was so mad. I was livid. I was so mad. I'm like, how dare she? How dare she like impose this upon me? And I remember being like hot in my chair, like the little stool that they had given me, and thinking like, man, I should have said except for, like country, because I wasn't a fan of country, and like Christian music or hard rock or whatever. Like I should have gave her more specifics, but now what can I do? So I sat there and I was working on her, and an hour goes by and I'm like calming down a little bit. Of course, I wasn't ever rude to her or like treated her. I didn't treat her in any way. This was all just internal, my body, my mind. And I was still trying to do my very best on her brows because I'm like, she's going to tell people, etc. So by the first hour, I'm like, okay, that's kind of catchy. Like, and I'm a singer and a songwriter, so I'm listening.
Yeah, by the way, she has an amazing voice.
Oh, thank you. So,
you forgot to mention all that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, she's also.
That's why she said the bio may take too long.
So,
I as a singer and a songwriter, I listen to music in a different way, I think, than most people. A lot of times you're just listening to like the beat, but I'm listening to like the chords and the harmonies, and then also what the lyrics are saying. Even in the most like intense rap music or whatever, I'm listening. I'm like, what is he talking about? This doesn't make any sense. I'm like trying to understand what the story is behind the song. And so I was listening to all these uplifting, motivational, positive songs, and I'm like, okay, all right, that's nice, okay. And so I was like keeping a mental record of the hooks or like parts of the songs that I could remember so I could go download them when I got home. And so by hour 2, I was just like, oh, I hope they play that one again. And then like by hour 3, I'm like, I'm going to build a whole playlist. Like, I just need to go research because I didn't know this world existed. I had no idea that it could be so nice and it could be so peaceful. And like all of that negativity, all of that anger, all of that frustration, and like, honestly, in my opinion, it was like Satan, that just like completely went away. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll go home and I'll like change a little bit of what I'm listening to, fine, but I'm not going to be a Christian, like just because I like Christian music doesn't make me all of a sudden a Christian. And so I got in the car, I was headed home, and no joke, I don't know if you remember this, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but do you know that song Anaconda by Nick?
It's funny unless you've got. Sorry.
You were talking about listening to the words of music. I was thinking, how in the world did we listen to Eazy-E in high school? Like, we were all listening to Eazy-E in high school.
Trey, Snoop,
it was terrible.
DMX.
Oh my gosh, terrible words. Okay, go ahead.
So I was leaving. So I had just done a 6-hour shift, right, with these 2 ladies. Amazing work. They loved it. And I'm getting in my car. I packed everything in, and I got into the car, and God again turned up the radio volume all the way to like 100, and it's blasting Anaconda, right? And I wasn't listening to that when I got there, and I wasn't listening to it at that level because I have respect for like communities, and I'm like keeping it low, right? So somehow the volume was just like turned up all the way, and it was like the most vulgar part of that song, and like something in my spirit just sank. Like at that moment, I just felt like, ooh, I felt dirty. I don't know how to describe it, but I just felt like I had just left this peaceful, cleansing environment to like this raunchy kind of, I don't know, weird moment. And so,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I turned down the volume. Obviously, I was like so embarrassed because I don't want her to hear that and think like, wow, how like respectful. So I turned it down, and I just was driving in silence and got home and started looking at these songs. And then I basically just made a deal with God, I guess you could say. I was like, if you're real, because I'm listening to this music now. I'm like, if you're real, you're going to do this for me. And I thought, okay, I'll just put it out there and see what happens. And like the next day, he did it for me. And I was just like, and I don't tell people what it was. That's between me and God, right? But it's just one of those things where it's like undeniable. It was not possible for him to do that for me. So when he did that, I was like, okay, so I'm going to research your religion now. I'm going to like buy a Bible. Again, it's not going to make me a Christian. Like, I'm not going to just become a Christian.
Just
like,
gonna
yes.
stick my toes in the water and see how it feels.
I was like, I'm going to buy a Bible. Okay. And then I started shifting what my son was watching from like, you know, just general stuff to like Superbook or like things that had Bible references in them, or like cartoons that were like Moses on YouTube, like things that were more, I thought, like kind of like helping me cheat a little bit, because I was learning about the Bible through him too, in like a very simplistic way.
The Bible for kids is great.
It's so good. These episodes were so good. And so I was learning from him too. And also he was like singing all the Christian songs I was listening to in the car. And I was just like, wow, from like Anaconda at some point. He was probably, I actually have videos of him dancing to that song. So yes, I know he listened to that song. But it changed everything. And so there came a moment where I was like, okay, I want to be baptized. I'm a Christian. I believe 100%. Like, this is it. This is real. And then I became the person debating with other atheists. Like, no, like, here's where it was all wrong. Yeah. And so I got, you know, a lot of flack for it, because people thought I was crazy. Like, how did you just turn... Anyone who knows my history or saw like the progression of my growth was like, whoa. That's crazy, because you used to fight against it. I used to be for all of the things that I am now against, you know, like certain things.
Well, he was seeking you, and he got you.
100%.
Awesome.
Well, and the lady on the table, she must have been really strong in her spirit, because if you were fuming inside, then you
can feel that energy.
You can feel that. And if she wasn't strong, she would have been like, you know what, I changed my mind, I need to go. Because a lot of people will. But if they... Have y'all ever talked about it before?
No, yeah. So when she came in for her 6 to 8 week touch-up, at that point I had already bought a Bible. I had already like changed my music. I literally changed from listening to nothing but like Drake and all of the top, you know, 40s or top, you know, 100 hits or whatever, to like a Christian playlist. I mean, I was listening to Christian rap and Christian other things, and trying to find my, you know, my vibe of what kind of music I liked. But like, that changes your spirit, and it changes if you're listening to like uplifting things, motivational things, positive things every day, your whole outlook changes. And so, and then on top of that, just looking at it in the Bible, and then like understanding history and things like that. So she did come back for her 6 to 8 week touch up. So she flew in about every month. So because I think her fiance was in Houston or in the Woodlands. So she came back, and I was just like asking her all of these questions about the Bible. And then, no joke, God put so many Christian women on my table, because it was like every person that came in was like, so I started playing Christian music as my setting instead of spa music, because now I'm like, oh, it's perfect. I have 3 hours to listen to all my favorite music, you know, but also do what she did to me, like plant the seed. And I got resistance from maybe like 2 people in total in my entire career of doing thousands of procedures. I would say probably 3 people were not at that moment telling me they weren't happy, but afterwards were like, hey, you should have asked me what kind of music. I'm like, I know that spirit. I was that spirit. I know that spirit. Yeah. And so I still don't change that now. Anytime you walk into my store, other than the experience you had probably this week, because we had people renting out the studio, it's it's Spotify. It's top Christian music on Spotify, because I'm like, A, I want to keep the demons out. B, I also want to have uplifting music for everyone there. And I do think that it changes the environment.
It's an energetic field that's different. And if you're a person who is sensitive to that, a lot of people don't even recognize that they're sensitive. They don't have the awareness, but some people have the awareness of the sensitivity, and they can walk into a place and they may just, you know, walk out and be like, yeah, I didn't like it. But then there's the people that can go, oh, I didn't like it because of this. Or does that make sense?
Yeah.
They can just sense when they go into a store, like, I walked into, let me just...
You can feel the energy. You can feel the peace in the room. I mean, even the Sonny's gas station up there plays Christian music
Yes,
while you're
okay,
filling out your
perfect
gas.
example.
So you get out of your car and it's just like, it just overwhelms you. It consumes you because I know the music, so I know the feelings that the songs have made me have. So when you hear them again, it goes. But
I think Sonny is from India.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is. I don't know. He looks a little
he said
lighter.
tell you hi today.
He did. He's so sweet. He is him and the other guy. They're both from India, and there is a noticeable difference when you walk into that gas station and there's Christian music playing all out the pumps, and then you walk inside the store. It is an energetic field of positivity where you just feel it and you light up. And he is so nice, and he just looks at you in your eye. It's a joy. It's an inner joy, and it's amazing. Okay, after you were saved, I noticed that you started becoming a little bit more vocal about your past. And can you talk a little bit about that? Like what is unraveled for you that was healing?
Oh my goodness, so many things. I think part of the reason why I was an atheist was because of, I don't know if you have to give a disclaimer, but like child molestation. So that happened when I was 8 years old. And I vividly remember waking up like the next day after everything had happened and thinking, if God was real, why would he let this happen to me? Mm-hmm. And like, I think that's how the enemy uses children and those kind of situations to like plant that seed of doubt and also like disrupt their normal upbringing, because he knows that it's much harder to fix a broken adult, you know what I mean, than it is to like let them be good and then they just have some issues when they're already adults. But like that right there, breaking a child is like you basically guarantee that you're going to have a broken adult. Yeah. And so once I gave my life to Christ, and I would say as that journey was happening, so many things have happened to me as a child and adolescent and young lady that it kept reinforcing that feeling of like, oh, God's not real, until I realized God was real and thought like, wow, I've actually survived a lot of pretty incredible things that most people would be in a dumpster somewhere or like in jail or really on some strong drugs. There's so many outcomes. I mean, I know of multiple ones where I could have been in really dangerous situations. Like, I don't know how I'm alive. I know how I'm alive because of the grace of God and he protected me. But so I think once I became a Christian, it helped me. I just kept feeling this like, I would say the voice of God, but not like a hey, you need to do this, but like you feel
Listen to me now.
Yeah, I wish that would happen. That would be cool. But it's more like, hey, you need to put out your testimony. Hey, you need to talk about this more. And so I did start opening up and sharing, and I also got closure from some things that had happened to me, like the assault that I had when I was 18, 19.
The assault at the party?
Yes. So the one that you probably read the.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So this is actually a good lesson for any of you who have daughters who are college age, high school age. What happened to me was basically I was just coming out into my own. I was like the only one in my friends group that had her own apartment. So all of my friends were coming over, and I went to this party where I met this guy who was very well known in our circle of people, and he was like really popular and handsome, very handsome, and all the girls liked him. And here I am, like little naive Michelle, and wrote him a letter. I was like, hey, I really like you, like so cheesy. Aww. And he totally like sensed that I was vulnerable and dumb, naive young girl. And so he asked me out on a date, and I was like, oh my gosh, the cutest guy ever is asking me on a date. And one of my friends at the time was like, hey, you shouldn't go out on a date with him. But he also liked me, so I was like, you're just jealous. Little did I know that he had heard some things. He didn't know exactly what had happened, but he had heard some like very negative things about these group of people. Now, he was there. He's the one that introduced me to them, but he didn't really hang out with them, if that makes sense. He just occasionally, he also wanted to be perceived as cool, you know, like we all do. And so when they invited him, he'd be there, but it wasn't like a frequent thing because he wasn't like them. So this was a big group of guys. So we go, I get into his car. He basically tells me we're going to go to this place and he needs like my driver's license because I'm not 21 at the time. So he's going to get me into this place and we're going to meet this other couple. And so we go to this apartment complex and like on Westheimer. And he basically, we go inside, everything's fine, I wasn't, no red flags, like I didn't have that like hyper awareness for some reason. I was just so enthralled by him that I didn't pay attention to much of what was happening. But then as I started kind of looking around, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of guys here. Like, I don't see the couple, I don't see girls, I'm the only girl, like, what's happening? But it still didn't like occur to me that something dangerous could happen. It was still like, oh man, like I hope we can leave soon. And so there's so many details that I'm leaving out here. I'm just kind of giving the Cliff's Notes version because it's a long story. But basically he led me to the kitchen where they lined up a bunch of shots, right? And I wasn't a big drinker, but like one shot, I wasn't gonna pass out from a shot, so I thought. So they lined up a bunch of shots and he gives me my shot and everyone just like watching me, like take my shot. And still didn't occur to me that something could have been in my shot. Not at all. I was like, awesome. We're all like hanging out. Cool. Friends are going to be here soon. Don't worry. And no joke, it took me like maybe 3 minutes to get to the outside patio because I needed fresh air, and I was just like standing there, and I honestly felt like I was going to pass out. And he just walks up to me, he's like, you're so beautiful, and then he goes to kiss me, and then everything just goes black. And then bits and pieces of what I remember is just being in the bedroom, where the best way I can describe it is like when a vulture finds a dead animal on the street. You know, it's like tearing it apart. It's like pulling it and like in all different directions, and they're all fighting for like a piece of that animal. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't say that I was raped because I don't know exactly what happened still to this day. I can't say that I can't say no for a fact I was raped. I can't, because I don't have any proof or any evidence or anything. I literally got dropped off at a dumpster by a Starbucks. A girlfriend of mine picked me up. Of course, they called her and said that I was like a slut and this and that, all these horrible things. And so she believed them. And I'm still reeling from this, being like on this whatever drug they had put in my drink. Not super coherent, not knowing what's going on. You know, they kind of threw me in the back of the car, dropped me off at the by the dumpster, and then she pulls up like an hour later, and I just get in the car, and she's just bashing me. She's like, you're such an embarrassment. Like, I can't believe you would do this. I can't hang out with you anymore. We can't be friends. Don't ever call me. And I'm just like, so she drops me off, and I literally lock myself up in my house for, 3 days, 4 days without talking to anyone. And the first thing I did when I got home was just sit in the hottest bathtub, like the hottest water, because I wanted to cleanse myself. I didn't think about like, oh, go to the police and do this and
or the hospital.
Go get a rape kit, go do those things. None of that crossed my mind. I literally was just like, wow, I guess I am a slut. I guess I am, because she just literally for the time it takes from Westheimer all the way to West Park and like Derry Ashford, like that distance was just her bashing me from the Galleria all the way down. And I believed it, because I didn't know what had happened. There really wasn't much talk about those kinds of things when I was younger. Never knew to prepare for that or to be hesitant about taking a drink from someone. None of that ever occurred to me. But I sat in that bathtub, like tried to cleanse myself, and then just disconnected from everyone. And finally, my friend who had told me, hey, don't go, the guys had all been talking about what had happened. They didn't give him details because they knew he was close to me. But it was like circulating what happened. Again, I don't know 100% exactly what happened because I only know bits and pieces of when I like opened my eyes and what was happening, you know, but I can't say that it happened 100%, but I was definitely sexually assaulted, but I don't know exactly what happened, which is probably the worst part. Like, I wish I could just say, like, yeah, this is exactly what happened, and that justice could be served. But unfortunately, by the time I actually felt safe enough, because these people were still within my community, like these guys were all, it was a Persian community, because I'm half Persian. These guys were like, one of them was my dad's best friend's son. And I thought, when I saw him, that's one thing I do remember. I turned over and I saw him, and I was like, help me. And he was the one initiating everything. He was the worst one out of all of them. Wow. And so that just leads me to say, like, don't trust anyone, not even your friends. Like, no one's going to protect you in a situation like that when there's 20 people doing one thing. Most of the time, you have like the bystander effect, where they're just going to flow with whatever's happening. And especially if like they feel like they could get in trouble, then they're just going to do whatever, because they're already going to get in trouble for it, you know, in their minds. So yeah, that happened. It was traumatizing, and it led me almost instantaneously into drugs and alcohol and like self-medicating to deal with all of those things.
Well, it sounds like you are a very strong individual to get through all of that and to take that negative energy and create a business, create a path for yourself, take care of your son, find Christ. I mean, that's an amazing testimony.
That's a huge testimony.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's a pretty crazy story. Sorry you had to go through that.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Did you know we were going to get that deep?
Hey, I thought we were talking about eyebrows and stuff today. What's going on?
There's always a deeper story.
This is what God does. He brings it out. So, you know, you can share that, and, you know, the listeners, daughters, and just women in general, men aren't always that way, but there's that predator mentality that you just have to be consistently aware that it could happen, and make sure that you're not putting yourself in those situations to do that.
Well, and it's not just about educating girls about the situations that they can get into, but it's also about educating the boys too on what to not be a part of.
There's 20 dudes in a room. There's got to be some stand-up guy that says this is wrong.
That, you know what? If they're all occupied, then you leave the room and go call 911. You know, I mean, there's so many different ways that we could teach our boys and our girls on what to do in this sort of scenario, and what to watch out for, even too. Like if the boy is with a group of his guy friends and a girl comes along, and you got to be observant and say, oh, that girl only had one drink, and now she's like completely passed out. Somebody might have drugged her. And what would you do in that situation?
It's that wingman mentality. The wingman's not there to find you a date. The wingman's there to protect you for that night.
And teaching our boys to be protectors and not to participate in those things and not to do those things. And then also teaching the girls not to put themselves into a situation where something like that could happen. But also that if you did have something happen, because this is a story of so many women, and the pain from that, I can't imagine. It's stuck in your body. It's not going to come out until you purposely release it. You have to consciously release the pain, release it to Jesus's feet, and to be healed. And it's a miraculous healing. And then you use your story for the greater good of God's people, and then it's passed along, and here we are today. And then you now had your healing, which brought you into your business. Because if you had all that pain, there's no way you would have had this business. If you would not have been able to let go of all those things, because if you would have still been self-medicating. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And now you're in a business where you're empowering people with their confidence and making them feel good, and providing careers because you're business coaching, and also you're coaching other artists as well, right?
Right. So any beauty entrepreneur, so other women who either maybe they're estheticians or they're permanent makeup artists, maybe they're trainers, all across the world. Actually, we have students in Australia, in the UK, and the United States and Canada. that need help and guidance with that. And I will say, like, an underlying factor I feel like that's quite often missed is like mental health. And also, I can't tell you how many times I post like little tidbits of my story on Instagram, or like share something. Like I actually did a live with a colleague of mine about being molested at 8 years old. And I got so many messages privately from certain students and also outside of the coaching program that were like, this happened to me. I can't believe that you're talking about it out loud. Like, I hope that one day I can have the strength to talk about it. And I'm just like, you will. You have to work through it, and I'm going to pray for you.
Yeah.
That's
because
amazing.
you need to heal from that. Otherwise, it's always going to just be an obstacle in your way for your goals. And like, you're always going to have this self-doubt. You're always going to have that insecurity. You're always going to have not to say that I'm perfect and I don't have that anymore. Sometimes I do, but it's not at that extent where it's like quit and give up and just forget it. It's like, oh, that's going to be hard. Like, all right, so I just need to tweak some things and I'll get over that hump.
And our bodies have a natural way of talking back to us and then instantly feeling the emotion from the words that we just spoke to us. So we may say, oh, I have this goal, and then we speak it out loud, and then on the other side, there's instantly a voice in our head that's like, are you stupid? You can't do that. Or what will everybody think? You're never going to complete that. And then when you hear that voice in your head, there's an emotion that's produced. And that emotion makes that voice that you just heard real. And usually that emotion will cause some sort of physical place. So it comes physically in our bodies. And then it comes physically in the bodies, and then it can manifest into something else. So this is crazy, like
It's a cycle.
roller coaster of a cycle. Yeah.
You got to catch it and stop it.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk microblading would have brought you to the Lord?
I know. It's crazy. And so
music. It was really music.
music via microblading. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I have to play my music. And if someone doesn't like it, like, I'm sorry, but that's why I'm an owner of a business, because this is my choice. Like, if you don't like it, then there's probably a reason, right? That you don't like it. It's not because it's like horrible music. Because if I was playing, whatever's on top radio right now, it's like laden with curse words, and the messaging is so off, but that's okay with you. But this right here that's uplifting and motivational is not. Then you have to check your own spirit.
True.
And so I'm like, well, if I lose that customer, then I lose that customer. But the people who do need to hear it, sometimes I get clients that'll tell me, Michelle, I'm so glad I came in to see you. Maybe it's been a year or like a year and a half for like an annual touch up. You made me want to pick up my Bible again. Not me, that's God. It's not me making you want to pick up your Bible, but they associate that with the music that's being played. It's like, oh, that made me want to pick up my Bible, or that made me want to do what is it called? A Bible study, or like certain things like that, where I'm just like, okay, I'll keep playing it. Like, it gives me that reaffirmation.
I love it.
That's awesome. That's
Well, thank
inspiring.
you so much for coming in here and just sitting with us and sharing your heart and sharing your story and telling us what you do. And so where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. That's like the main form of communication. That's the easiest way to find me. So it's at Michelle Rukny, Rukny. And then I also have a website, The Beauty Compound, and it's beauty with an E. So BEAUTE compound.com. I do want to say two little things actually. So one, in the beginning, you asked me about Taylor, and I literally made no sense at all. I want you to know that when you watch this back, it's going to make no sense, okay? I want to say Taylor's amazing, okay? She isn't my esthetician. She's available. I don't know what I was talking about. She's available. Yes, she's pregnant, but her schedule's open. So if you want to book with her, you can. I don't know what the heck I was saying. I was just very nervous.
All right.
I apologize for that.
So we know Taylor's amazing.
And she's got magical fingers, as Amy says. But yeah, and then secondly, I'd love to thank you for just having me on here and letting me, speak to your audience. And I just love you.
Love you too. Thank you for coming.
It was very,
So
very
welcome.
inspirational. I never know what we're going to do. And when she said microblading and beauty, it's like, okay, this is going to take a little while. And then you got off onto your story, and I had chills going through my arms.
Aww.
I don't know, it was beautiful, and it's amazing. So congratulations on your success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being who you are.
Aw, you too.
All right, everyone. Y'all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of According to the Cassels with Amy and Trey. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. To stay up to date with the Cassels, follow Amy on Instagram at @acassels. Until next time, have faith, enjoy life, and love abundantly.